I don't want to get sued, and my memory isn't 100% on the timeline of it. But, they knew he did it, obviously. So I don't want to go really any further with that.
Okay. Yeah, because it was right around that time when, it was very tense. You had Ja Rule, you had 50 Cent. When I was a kid, this is when I was a kid, it was like the heyday of my childhood as far as listening to rap music. And, we still had to buy CDs. And it was so tense because we had the mixtapes, you had the discs that were on there, you had the DVDs, radio. Internet wasn't like that, not just yet. It wasn't like that as of yet. But in my mind, I was like, these guys might end up like Biggie and Tupac. Would they kill each other? Because think about it, it already got physical. Mm-hmm. Everybody has gangsters on their side. Everybody got goons. All it takes is one wrong mistake and that's it.
It's funny, like the tape stuff back in the day, the guys who did the mixtapes, the DJs, people saw an opportunity to extort from them too. And so those guys started getting extorted in the game too. So it was like everybody was looking to, get a piece of what anyone was making. And those rap beefs were like ridiculous, but they were deadly, and how 50 wasn't killed or how there wasn't retribution where someone else got killed, because 50's camp, obviously they weren't a bunch of angels,
Right.
It's, it could have been worse.
Right. Yeah.
And when I see like Irv Gotti and these guys all smug and trying to say that 50 was a rat and stuff like that, these guys were hanging out with Kenneth McGriff, Supreme team. Supreme goes after 50 with this guy Godby and this guy's son. They shoot him 9 times and they're off and they're out of there. They had, 50 knows where that all came from. And Ja Rule had a big part of that, the ongoing beef. And for them to even open their mouths about it, being a part of that, with a real bad guy who's got a rep for killing people and coming from a violent organization, to be hanging out with him and having him shoot 50, they wonder why no one else in the record industry wanted anything to do with them after that. And that was a big part of it. It wasn't the feds coming after them or anything like that. They knew what was happening behind the scenes, and they certainly had a part in that. Whether they put money up, whether they
knew about it afterwards,
whether they brought Supreme in and then he felt that he was protection for them, so he was going to go do it. Whatever the reason was, once you bring a bad guy into your circle, nothing good's going to happen.
Right. I mean, you could say the same thing about Puff. But before we get to that, do you think the 50 shooting, you think Irv, Ja, and these guys, they knew about it beforehand or after the fact?
If they knew about it beforehand?
Yeah, beforehand or after the fact?
I don't want to get sued, and my memory isn't 100% on the timeline of it. But, they knew he did it, obviously, and 50 knew he did it. So, wouldn't that be time to step away, from this guy? You're not street if you're hanging out with a guy in the street. You know what I mean? And I think they let that go to their head. And I think it's what ultimately how they were removed from the music industry. Because why deal with guys like this? Irv Gotti was an up-and-coming guy in the business. He could have been way at the top. He had so much success early in his career. And then Supreme, 50 Cent, that just destroyed him, and the only way he gets attention nowadays is, talking about how he slept with Ashanti. That's kind of pathetic.